Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to take a look at the ever-growing importance of black holes in the Multiverse Saga. Now, I've done several videos that have discussed a black hole here or there, but I've never done a video comprehensively pulling all the information we've gotten on black holes into one video, and I think you're going to find this really, really interesting. So, without further ado, let's dive right in and see what we can find out. Don't forget we have the March contest running all month long. Be a subscriber, leave a comment, and you might win a book or a steelbook. And keep in mind, Disney just announced 4 new options. Andor, Obi-Wan, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Moon Knight are all getting steelbook treatment. Very, very cool. So if you happen to be the randomly chosen winner, you have lots you can select from. Best of luck. Also, with the membership option, I always like to mention that if you want to help me with my goal of doing this full-time one day, you get cool perks like custom emojis and behind-the-scenes videos. I now have 2 of them out there. One on channel metrics, how the channel's doing, and another on how I make these videos, and I will continue to add them over time. But honestly, no matter how you support the channel, it's all greatly appreciated. Leaving comments, liking videos, subscribing, it all goes a long way. So thank you so much. All right, so I want to mention this working multiversal model. You've seen it in several videos now, and I always say it's a working model because, let's face it, this is all theory until someone goes up to a chalkboard in an MCU entry, maybe Dr. Selvig, maybe Reed Richards, and draws out the multiversal model. But in the meantime, I do think this applies everything we've learned so far, and it all fits really well. So you basically have separate universes like 838, the one from the Marvels with the Beast, and of course 616, and off of those universes you have branches. Whether we call them branch timelines or branch universes, because Marvel's called it both, it doesn't really matter as much as the fact that they are branched. They are connected. And I really think this recent tweet from Miss Minutes goes a long way to fit into this model. Now, I'll say up front, I have no idea if the Miss Minutes account is some hack account or whether it's actually Marvel, or at least whether Marvel approves of it or not. But nonetheless, let's look at this because it is kind of cool. So there was a post that's now been deleted. That's suspicious. But nonetheless, Jake Myers asked, are Peter's 1, 2, and 3 variants or not? That's really his question. Are they variants? And Miss Minutes says they are the same person, different universe. To be a variant, you have to be same person, same universe. Well, I love that answer. I really hope that is the official Marvel answer because that goes with this model, right? So taking Mordo, for example. Mordo was in 838 on the left and was in 616 on the right. That is the same person, but it's not a variant. To be a variant, you have to be branched. So in other words, in What If, we're dealing with variants. Gamora is a variant, the one from 2014. Very interesting. So I really like that. We'll see whether Marvel goes with that, but I just think this model really works well. But all right, so what we're going to talk about is the difference between traveling between branches and traveling between disconnected universes. All right, so in the time heist, we saw them traveling between timelines, and I think they went back in time and created a branch and then returned to their home timeline. In Ant-Man's book, or sorry, Scott Lang's book, same thing, but he talked about them jumping between timelines. So I don't know which it happened. I really, really hope we get the Steve Rogers returning the stones because it'll answer all the questions. But the real key here is, though, they were jumping between timelines, and they were able to do it safely using the quantum tunnel. Obviously, Gamora, she came from the 2014 branch and now lives in the main timeline. So she traveled between branches. In Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Fitz discusses going back in time, branching off, and then using the quantum realm to jump between timelines. Obviously, in Loki, they went into branch timelines all the time. Sylvie lived in the McDonald's branch, as I like to call it. Who knows how long she was there? But they went in between different branches using using He Who Remains tech. Infinity Ultron jumped between branches many times, went through several branches. Obviously, the Watcher collected the Guardians together to fight him from different branches. The Watcher put the Black Widow in the season finale from season 1 in a different branch because her world was pretty much trashed. And then in the second season, we saw Doctor Strange pull Kahori from her branch into his branch. We saw the Scarlet Witch pull Captain Carter into her branch. And then finally, we saw Doctor Strange pulling Captain Carter into his branch. So yeah, the key is tons of travel between branches. There were no incursions, no issues. You just have to know what you're doing and you have to have the appropriate tech to do it. So That's the travel we're talking about. We saw a lot of travel between connected branches. But now let's focus on travel between disconnected universes. This is where the black holes have been coming in left and right, and it is all so amazingly consistent and cool to see this all laid out. So here's the important point from Michael Waldron. I've mentioned this before, but it's so much worth remembering. So Michael Waldron, in the Multiverse of Madness Assembled episode, said it's impossible, near impossible, to travel from one universe to another. In Loki, you can kind of hop from one timeline branch to another, but you got to be anchored to some original timeline. What America can do, America Chavez, is she can jump from one universe to another. She can literally do the impossible. And of course, we see in Multiverse of Madness, she opens her little portal there, the star-shaped portal, and she can go between universes. And here we see her doing it again, or being forced to do it, in this case, by Wanda. So, okay. We know that America can do that innately. She just has the ability to do it. But how do others do it? Okay, let's look at the Marvels. In the Marvels, Dar-Ben used the bangles, both of them, to open a rift in space. Of course, that ultimately killed her in the process, but notice the black hole. There was a black hole that formed, and here we get a better shot of it here. And then finally, when it goes away, we now have the rift between universes. And as Monica explains, it is a self-propagating singularity. We're going to see that word coming up again, with negative mass. We're going to see that coming up again. And then she says non-Newtonian topology. And then she simplifies it for us and says she tore a hole in space-time. And that a different reality is now bleeding into ours. So she goes to that different reality, obviously, and Beast tries to explain things as best he can and says, my theory, you somehow crossed through a tear in space-time. You're now in a reality parallel to your own. And I think the parallel is key. They're not connected, they're parallel, and that is so similar to the wording that He Who Remains used when he described all the Kangs meeting. Remember, he said they were from universes stacked on top of each other. So stacked on top, parallel, the key is they aren't connected. They're not connected by a branch. All right, so then he says, of course, that's impossible. You shouldn't be able to do this. So there you go. All right, and it was a black hole that did it. Then I love this, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. If you haven't seen this series, you got to check it out. It's such a good series. But at the end of season 1, Lunella is pulled into a mysterious portal, and at the beginning of season 2, we learn that she is on an interdimensional highway. And that strange-looking character with her is their version of the Beyonder. So it's interesting, they do introduce a Beyonder. And he says, an interdimensional highway is no place for a human like you. And then this image I want you to see, because we're going to see how similar this looks to something else, so kind of keep this in your mind. And then they end up on this planet in a different universe, and it happens to be a planet that Beyonder has wrecked, and for reasons that you can watch the episode if you want details, but Beyonder loses his power. So it's up to Lunella to get them back to her universe. So she says we could use, there you go, a black hole, right, to get back home. She says when matter enters a black hole, it's at the risk of being stretched into a thin ribbon by the hole's gravitational pull. As it approaches the singularity, remember that's the same word that Monica used, the singularity, you get spaghettification. And of course, Victor Timely showed us multiple times what it looks like to get spaghettified. So very consistent here between Moon Girl and Loki. But she says, if an object travels through a non-spinning black hole, so non-spinning, that's very key, fast enough, it can make it through the singularity virtually unaffected. Nice. She says, I just need to build something that will travel as fast as the speed of light to survive the travel. And the only thing theorized to yield Alcubierre warp drive is negative mass. Now, if you're like me, by the way, negative mass, remember, that's what Monica also said, negative mass. But Alcubierre, if you're like me, no clue what that meant. So, hey, it's actually a real thing. The Alcubierre drive is a speculative warp drive. It's an idea according to which a spacecraft could achieve apparent faster-than-light travel by contracting the space in front of it and expanding the space behind it, under the assumption that a configurable energy density field lower than that of a vacuum, that is negative mass, could be created. Wow. Craziness that it's actually based on real science. So anyway, she says, that's it. I will build a ship propelled by negative mass. And again, remember Monica talked about singularities, the black hole, and negative mass. So it's all really consistent. So cool. Anyway, Lunella then uses the black hole to get back home again. So she travels from one alternate universe back to hers. I really hope we get Lunella in live action eventually. It's a great show, well worth watching. Check it out. And I've done videos on it if you want more details, if you decide not to watch it and just want summaries, but you got to watch it. It's good stuff. All right, so then I think this is so cool that maybe we finally know what was going on at the beginning of Loki Season 1's finale. If you remember, we start in a universe and we go backwards. And we're backing out, I think this is the initial singularity that created the universe. Because here we see it erupting, and then we go back further, and now we're in like this tunnel, and this tunnel here, and it's even more of a tunnel, and even more of a tunnel, and finally we exit a black hole. We back out of it, and then we head into this black hole. And once we head into this black hole, we now start to see the galaxy, and even more of the galaxy, planets, and then, once again, this seeming multiversal highway. Look at this here, and remember, how similar did that look to what Lunella saw? So once again, all this stuff is so consistent. It's just little pieces, little breadcrumbs across all these different shows and movies. In case you're paying attention, you get all these hints. Love it. Anyway, remember they exit and we end up at the Citadel at the end of time. So very cool. Maybe that's what they were trying to tell us in that Loki episode is you can travel between alternate universes through those black holes. So it raises an interesting question. Does America Chavez use black holes? I mean, I'm guessing not like consciously, like she's not thinking in her head, I'm going to form a black hole because that would be fun. But if you look really closely at the inside of her star, there's like a star, then a smaller star, then a smaller star, a little bitty star there. Maybe, just maybe, that image inside the star is a black hole. Because notice that seems to erupt way inside there. The inner star has a little circle of light. And then the star then gets completely lit up and then starts to open a portal little by little, erupts even more, and then now we start actually seeing the portal open, and then we'll get rid of the box. Now the portal opens even more and opens even more. So I don't know whether she's using a black hole, but that would certainly make sense if her innate power is the ability to do that. Because now look at this rift and look at how similar that looks to the rift that was formed between the two universes in the Marvels. Very, very similar. So cool. I love it, right? It all just comes together. So cool. So then the next question is, does a new universe then get created out of a black hole? If you remember the final episode of Season 2 of What If, we learn that Doctor Strange is not trying to save universes, he's trying to resurrect his universe, right? And he uses the World Forge, this spinning thing. And ultimately, the Watcher pulls Captain Carter out so she can see what's happening. And she says, oh, so this is where you do all your watching. But notice, that sure looks like a black hole. Or maybe a white hole? I don't know. I mean, there is a difference. A black hole sucks things in, and a white hole, unsurprisingly, pushes things out. So maybe creation is really from a singularity that is a white hole. I'm fine with that. Either way, it's a hole. Whether it's a black hole or a white hole, it's a singularity. That's the real key. But anyway, then they say he created this universe, and he was unfortunately never born into it. Very tragic. But this may address an issue that I've heard some people raise, and it's a very fair issue, to say it doesn't make sense that a single decision, a decision to do one thing versus another, can create matter, can create an entire universe. How on earth is that possible? I mean, we know the Watcher said repeatedly that a single moment creates a new universe. So how do you create matter out of nothing? Well, maybe it's not out of nothing. Maybe it's these singularities that are creating a new universe. In fact, that would go very consistently with what Peter Parker said in Far From Home. Of course, Mysterio was full of it. He was making stuff up, but Peter Parker knew what he was talking about. He says, sorry, you're saying there's a multiverse? I thought that was theoretical. That changes how we understand the initial singularity. In other words, there wasn't just one singularity, but we're talking about an eternal inflation system. So it seems like Marvel is saying, yeah, that is what we are talking about. We are talking about the fact that these singularities continue to form new universes, and yes, they are triggered by literally a different decision creates a new universe, or seemingly going back in time creates a branch, which is another new universe. Wild, very wild. All right, so back to this working multiversal model again. I think the key here is the difference between traveling between connected universes or timelines, again, whichever, but they're connected, versus traveling between disconnected universes, alternate universes, whatever you want to call it. Non-anchored universes, I think, is how Waldron kind of referred to them. Love it. Absolutely love it. And also, I'm wondering, should I change my image? So I've always had the black hole because I thought that that was how the universe was created. Maybe it's a white hole. But either way, again, it's a singularity. The point is, it's a singularity that creates the stones because the stones were there before the creation of the universe and then were formed out of it. We got the 6 stones. So, hey, I'm all for those images instead. All right, there you go. This is what I've pulled together for so far, at least. Hopefully, like Deadpool 3 will give us even more. But this is what I pulled together. Let me know your theories. Let me know your thoughts. As always, I'm very open to different ideas, so leave them in the comments. And don't forget, of course, we have the membership option in case you're interested in that. And we have the contest, be a subscriber, leave a comment, and maybe get a book or a steelbook. Very cool. And finally, love to have you join us on Discord, the Metaphysics chat room. Boy, tell you what, we are always talking about everything under the sun. All views are welcome, but sometimes it can indeed get heated. So we try not. We try to just have peaceful conversations. So everybody's thoughts are welcome. We'll love to hear what you think. But everybody's passionate about it as well, which is cool, which is very cool. Anyway, I will leave a pinned comment so that you can join the Discord if you're interested. Over 1,200 people from across the globe, conversations 24/7. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.